It's never too late to start your Christmas painting, so grab your paints and brushes. Follow along as I share my thoughts, colors, and techniques to create this beautiful painting, and I can't wait to see how your guys' turn out. I want to preserve some of the white paper, so I'm laying down a little bit of masking fluid for the star. I start by grabbing some Orcher Yellow. This is going to be laid down in the field. I'm just kind of placing it where I think the star's light will shine across the field, making sure I'm avoiding the little sheep that I've outlined and the shepherd. I'm also adding a little bit of the ochre and that light onto the mountains. I'm adding a little bit of a darker green and layering that in between the Orcher Yellow to try to fill the rest of the page. You want to avoid the shepherd and the sheeps on the page as you start to add in the yellow and green of the foreground. Now I'm grabbing a little bit of burnt sienna. I'm going ahead and laying it down on my mountain, just kind of creating a base layer. Now that I've added a base layer of colors, I'm going to go with a more opaque Sap Green, and I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more details. For me, it's a lot of dabbing here, dabbing there. I'm going ahead and add here a little bit of a darker green, maybe make some pine trees. They're more of an impression of plants. And as I go back further onto the mountain, and as that's farther in distance, those little blobs are going to get a little bit smaller. I'm experimenting with colors and trying to get even a darker, richer green. You can always use complementary colors on the color wheel to get a darker hue. So I'm mixing a little bit of red, green, and brown. Here I'm using some Sap Green to try to make some more plants in the foreground. Because they're closer to you, I'm trying to make it a little bit darker. So dab away and create some more plants. Again, we're avoiding those sheep. You can kind of see their shapes begin to appear as we add more colors into our painting. I'm grabbing some Quninaquarine Gold. I'm gonna go ahead and add some more yellow onto the field, try to strengthen where that star is glowing on the field and on the mountains. I'm taking a little bit of black and starting to create some of the features of our sheeps. I start off light, putting a little bit of black where the heads are and the legs are, and then I kind of slowly realize I need to make it a little bit stronger and make that black a little more opaque. I'm mostly adding the black to the heads, the feet, and kind of outlining parts of the fur. And then I'll be a little more transparent with the black to try to create some shading on their fur. It's starting to look a lot better now that those sheeps are starting to gain some of their cute features. The little faces are popping up. So fun. Now it's time to move on to painting our sky. We're going to be using a wet-on-wet technique, so starting with some fresh, clean water, you're going to want to add an even layer of water across the sky. For my blues, I'm using Quninaquarine Blue, Paynes Gray, and some Marine Blue. Again, just dab, 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 all those colors, have fun with it. Since it's wet on wet, they'll kind of mix and blend together on the page. And then you see me dab a little bit on that star. We want to preserve that white, and we'll come back to the star later. I'm trying to keep the edges of the sky a little more dark because that light is coming from that big bright star, so we want it lighter, kind of closer to the star and a little bit darker around our edges. While we let that first layer of sky dry, I'm going back into my mountains. I grabbed some burnt umber and I'm going to add a little bit of layer onto the mountain to kind of create some of that shadow, some of that depth along the mountainside. Taking some of the darker greens that I've made and just adding a little more foliage, plants, and dabs along the foregrounds. So you can just have fun with it, and wherever you think you need to fill in a little bit more, you can go ahead and add, again keeping those edges a little bit darker, kind of filling in around those sheeps as well. You don't want to cover those guys up. Taking some of that ochre yellow, and I'm gonna add a little bit of light onto our shepherd and some of our sheeps as well. I'm keeping the right side of everything more light, and then the left side is going to be more shadowed. It's time to start outlining the shepherd and adding more details. I'm using either black or umber to create some of the folds in his robe, or more shadows on the left side. Now that the sky is dry, I'm going to go ahead and add another layer of all those blues. The sky is a lot of layering, blending until I like the mixture and the intensity of the blues on the page. I'm adding a little more fresh water here along the sky, and going in with that second layer again to try to make all the colors blend together. Originally, I started to do on dry, and I realized it wasn't blending quite as nicely, so added that clean water, and now it's all the colors are really blending together. Using some of that clean water to dab around the star and make it really smooth right there. Using that darker green mixture, I'm adding some more Paynes Gray, and I'm creating some shadows casting from beneath the shepherd and some of the sheeps there in the field. Those sheeps in the center, I'm not quite adding such an intense shadow because that bright star is going to go ahead and dim the shadows of the sheep right underneath it. I'm continuing to add more browns, more greens to the page to try to build that depth and fill in the painting. You can never have too many layers. So here's another layer to our sky, trying to really bring out that beautiful blue night sky. In order to better blend the mountain with the sky, I'm taking a lot of water with a little bit of blue and I'm adding it to the sides of the paper. Even on those sheep, I went ahead and added a blue wash there to try to create more of that night sky on the edges of the paper. Now for one of my favorite parts is adding the stars. I'm going to head and cover my mountains because I don't want that to be splattered. I'm using some white gouache and I've watered that down a little bit to help that splatter. The more water you add, the more transparent your stars will be. And I really had to aggressively tap to get that really nice splatter, the stars to spread across my entire night sky. I'm adding a little more sap green into the field to try to blend a little bit more of that landscape. And again, I'm avoiding any sheep there in the field. Since we added some blue washes over some of those sheeps, they lost a little bit of their features, so I'm going back in with that black and really making them pop and stand out on the page. I'm adding a few little black dots kind of there in the background, just to kind of give the impression of more sheep way off in the distance. Go ahead and rub off that masking fluid that we put on in the beginning, and now we're going to create our star. I want to keep most of the star center to be white, so I'm doing a wash of yellow ochre around that ring, keeping that center white, and then I'm also adding a little more opaque yellow and ochre yellow and creating some stripes from the star. Hope you guys love your final painting as much as I do, especially all those cute little sheeps. I'd love to see what you guys created. Go ahead and tag me your final paintings on Instagram. This is also part of a collection. To go along with this painting, I did an Away in the Manger painting, and I also have a little more quick tutorial on this one on my channel. So happy painting and happy holidays.